Welcome everyone to our third Hire Talks. As you know, this is not an interview, but it's a very pleasant conversation that I will have with Yulia today. So I hope everyone on that side is also very excited. Speaking a little bit about you, Yulia. So I think we met once in a recruitment process. I won't tell which
Indeed.
recruiter was. Let's keep that as a secret. But I think it was a very, very pleasant conversation at the time. So I think we got really along together, and we saw each other again at Higher BCM this year. Unfortunately, we were both speakers at the same time, so we couldn't see each other.
Right.
But we are here now. And Julie is a very experienced recruiter, so she's already working in the Netherlands for quite a while. She hired a lot of people and also managed a lot of recruiters. But I will let you speak a little bit more about you in a few seconds, just to give a clue what we are talking about during this next hour to everyone. So we'll focus in two big topics. So working abroad. I also worked abroad before, and I think a lot of people are very curious to know what are the challenge. Everyone wants to go abroad, but they don't think sometimes what they will face. And also we'll speak a little bit how hiring it's going in 2023, the change
Mhm.
in the market, and what is going on from the recruitment side. So yeah, enough about me. I would like to pass you the word, Julia. So as I told you, I'm super excited to hear you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and present yourself?
Thank you, Gonzalo. Yeah, first of all, well, really nice to be with you here online on this remote digital journey. And yeah, indeed, it was a great experience in Hire at Barcelona and in the hiring process. So I think recruitment and talent acquisition is a lot about connections. So here we are as well because of networking and connections. Yeah, so a little bit about me. I mean, let me see from which angle it's better to talk about it. Well, I'm Yulia. I'm Ukrainian, or originally from the south of Ukraine, had been living a lot in Kiev and started my recruitment career there. And then for the last 6.5 years, I live in the Netherlands. The time flew with COVID, I think, and overall, I'm quite surprised this has been so long already. I'm in talent acquisition for about 11 years. Yeah, I basically started back in Ukraine, and I worked in very different companies, like mainly tech related, outsourcing, consultancy, product companies, big SaaS companies as Booking or Backbase in the Netherlands, and also small startups and scale ups. I've been working as a full-time employee and also as a freelancer, so I actually have a very experience and a lot, of course, as an individual contributor, but also as a talent acquisition manager, which I'm also doing right now in a company called SustainCert. It's a remote-first global company. We have an office as a hub here in Amsterdam, so I'm actually in the office right now, which looks a bit like a stock photos this booth, but it's a fun place to be, and I'm leading a team and basically responsible for a talent acquisition process. And I also think it's important to say that I am a psychologist, so I mean, I'm very much pro operational and hacks and sourcing, but also really very much putting my attention on people, yeah, and the processes that happens during the hiring.
Saying that you were managing a team right now. So how many
Mm-hmm.
people are you managing, and what is the biggest challenge on managing a team in such a company? Because climate is changing, we have a lot of challenge. So I think it's easy somehow to motivate people to join, but how you keep them motivated and how you keep them growing.
Sure, it's a cozy team of 3 people right now, and I'm the fourth. And well, we are rocking the talent acquisition here at SustainCert. What are the challenges of leading the team? I mean, I'm very lucky to have a great team members, and that's not a sugarcoating or anything.
Mhm.
I'm very happy with the team, so there's very little challenges in between our, I think, interaction because we build it in a good way. But well, I think it's always challenging. Like I work in a scale up. It's been a 1 year anniversary yesterday since I joined actually, and
Congrats.
we basically thank you. We basically started from scratch, although the company was already around 90 people. There was not really an ATS, not really hiring processes, and we were like kind of a first internal TA team. And we had the challenge of hiring around 100 people this year. Therefore, I mean, that's a nice challenge, I think, because, well, we all have work and we're growing and having people on board, but of course there should be a balance between executing, delivering results, and what we actually want to achieve, and standards as talent acquisition partners as we are here, with maturity of the company or maturity of the processes. You need to build foundations before you can do really, really great things. What was challenge for us in a way is to deliver operational recruitment while building the processes and basically maturing our hiring process as well. I personally really enjoy challenges, so I don't take it as something discouraging, but more encouraging thing. And in a scale up or overall, when you're really busy, the challenge is sometimes to have time to learn or for your personal development, right? In that sense, I think, of course, it's great to go for the conferences, visit webinars and read and look into some platforms. But what we also regularly do, for example, it's very simple, but working really well as a team, we do sourcing sessions together. Every week we used to do when it was really busy. Now it's less busy, so we do it every 2 weeks. And basically, we get together, see which role is the most burning one and who is, or maybe most difficult to find new people, and we all source together for this role. And someone who is leading the recruitment for this role, they're giving some keywords and some guidance, but also helps operationally for the work and delivery. It's really you study and learn best from each other when you collaborate rather than read something cool. So that gives a lot of collaboration and seeing how different people use booleans, or how actually differently people source in LinkedIn. So that worked really, really well.
Yeah, I love sourcing hours because I think it's a good way to collaborate and to share knowledge and to be together at the same time, especially when we are in a remote first environment. It's
Indeed.
always to get together. And you already saw a lot of things changing in the recruitment scene. So I will start with the recruitment first and not the last. Managing your team and seeing the change in non-recruitment, do you see something very different from before? So the way that you deal with your team and with recruitment really changed from before, or it's still the same, the bases are the same? Because the market changed a lot after COVID.
Yeah.
You still see the impact and the way that you deal with the team, it's very similar, or it's very different in your point of view?
I think it really depends on the domain you work, or for us also on the roles we are working on. I think because of economical situation, quite a challenging climate, business climate, the candidate, it's became a bit more employer-driven market again, rather than candidate-driven for some roles, especially for what we call admin or support, like a general roles, right? Ourselves including, I think. You can have quite a lot of applicants right now, and then the challenge is filter. Yeah, I use this word, but indeed, to figure out which ones are the best to screen and basically interview them. For our company and for our domain, we're in climate tech, and this is quite a growing market where there's a lot of demand in specialists, subject matter experts, but very low offer. They just don't exist. It's like maybe software engineers 15 years ago or so. Therefore, it's very candidate driven. There you really need to do a lot of research to find them, to headhunt and persuade them to join the interview, join your company. I would say it really depends. And when it comes to managing the team or overall recruitment process, I think it's very much became remote first driven. For instance, in our organization, even very rarely people come to Amsterdam to the office if they are from the Netherlands for the final interview or so. But basically, all the processes led remotely, which of course, impactful, needs some adjustments. And the same is, it's a bit more challenging, right? Or it requires a different ways to connect with the team and also keep up the team spirit versus when you can really meet in person every day and you just have this informal connections being done easily.
Yeah, exactly. I think the connection, the way that we do the day-to-day operations, it's of course different, and we need to make sure that we keep people engage. And I think the same thing happens with the candidates, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you do like the first or the second interview in person, way before you had one type of relationship, now I feel it's very transactional. Even yesterday I was interviewing a candidate, and then I realized via our ATS that I also interviewed him in March, and he didn't remember.
Oh yeah.
So
Wow.
these kind of
Yeah.
things, because it's easy to forget, right? It's fair
For
because
sure.
we're just meeting someone in a camera.
Squares.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you meet,
Squares in the screen.
you go to another interview. Do you have any like tips or things that you do to keep candidates engaged when you have a so heavily remote setup for recruitment?
Yeah, it's not a rocket science from what I can say, but again, I still try to remember it's about people, right? And we are talking with people. Like, I'm a person, I'm a human, and I'm talking with a human. So generally, I don't do much interviews now, but I do for C-level positions, and generally I really try to connect personally. That's probably best practice in general, for the recruitment, but like to really dedicate some time to get to know person background, and also just share a little bit about myself and company, not per se only position related or conditions related. That helps, and that helps then to lead the process with maybe some reference to, well, checking in to some personal related things, and really stay human, really stay honest. Like, for example, if you don't have update for a while, you still do an update about there is no news, rather than like, keeping people in the dark, because again, they will forget who you are, or withdraw from the process, or disengaged. And then a bit more, I think, more operational, automational tip. Well, just to automate also as much things as possible when it comes to candidate journey. And so, I mean, depends on your ATS, of course, but a lot of ATSs has reminders, about following up with candidates, or actually really having some automated emails being sent. That's important. We also try to do, for example, we have a standard recruitment process, and we also try to do like a second interview after the talent screen would be with a hiring manager and future boss, as much as it's possible, when it's not like CFO hire, etc. Then they also have a little bit more of connection, well, and engagement with the candidates. And I would say also providing some context about the company, about the conditions, is a good tip. For example, if you have, well, employee handbook which is opened, or some files about, some documents about how the things are in your company, or something related to the domain specific things, then I would do so. We, for example, had created the presentation for the talent screens, because the market we work at is so complex. Like, it took me, still taking me some time to understand how the climate tech works, or how sustainability, carbon emissions in that sense work. So it's also nice to have a presentation which you share the screen and talk about during the talent screen, and you send it after to the candidate, so they have, like, you also give them something, not only ask and take.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I think sharing materials and making sure that people are knowing what you are talking about is super nice, and it's something that you do once and it's already there, and you just need to send it. So
exactly, yeah.
it's work up
And you
front.
also can automate that, so send and
Exactly.
automate. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's super important, because more people value that, since there is so many companies right now. It's also hard to choose sometimes with whom we should go. I think that special care, it's very important. So at least the way I see it, it's the way, or the reason why we do it didn't change, the how changed, because we need to interact a little bit more often. To have more touch points. So I think that's very interesting what you shared, to make sure that the relationship is there and that we keep growing. But a lot have changed. Like there is a lot of uncertainty in the markets. There is layoffs going on. Then sometimes companies got funding and keep growing. How like a talent acquisition leader or even a recruiter should deal with change, and how you see this topic?
Yeah, I think it's a good one, because I mean, we are in this phase with ups and downs, since COVID time. And I think it's quite challenging still in the Netherlands. I'm sure, like overall over the Europe, because of business climate, because of big companies not really growing as well, and then of course it also leads to the startups not growing. And of course, I mean, us being in the role where well, we really depend on the growth. Our function depends on the growth. It's can be challenging and tricky. I think generally we are, as a humankind, in a way of quite uncertain times, where there's a lot of worries and anxiety, and then economical job one is one of them. Plus, I think what is challenging is, well, remote work is great, right? But also you need to learn how to work remotely to make it healthy, to not overwork, to be able to log off really. So I would say, like, well, general well-being care is really important for talent acquisition professionals as for everyone else. Like to really have some sort of hygiene comes to work. But then, of course, when we think about well, you know, recruiter specific challenges, yeah, for recruiters is a bit different, of course, or specific, yeah, because our job depends on growth and hiring. And I would say that it is, or at least when I started, like, you know, a decade ago, it was a profession where you could easily enter. Like, you don't need to have crazy amount of skills to try to be a recruiter. But I think to become a really good one, you really need to work hard, or it's really multi-discipline profession where you need to be a salesperson, and marketing person, an employer branding person, and self-organized, etc. So I think we need to kind of become this full stack recruiters first of all, and to be really, you know, in demand in the market, which is right now. I know in the big corporations, like, people sometimes, teams are split sometimes per sourcers and recruiters. You know, those people, there are one people who only interview applicants, and the ones who only source candidates. And I think, I mean, now we need to be a bit more like a jack of all trades people to adapt to basically, well, different different organizations and different needs. And I don't think, well, there's going to be a, like, it's either going to be a budget decrease on TA than increase for the coming, you know, half a year or year. So it's better to learn how to do different dimensions of recruitment. Yeah, and I think what is really valued is when you, as a in-house recruiter specifically, but also if you're in consultancy and you specialized in specific consultancy, that you kind of become subject matter expert. Either it's in climate or fintech or like Java or front end, like some specific technology. This becomes more and more valued, as you can really bring the market insights to the organization and be a business partner, rather than, like, you know, admin who processes CVs and applicants.
I think we are very aligned on that, because I think when you become a bit more specialized, more opportunities come. You also can serve better your hiring managers and your team. And I completely agree with you. I think companies are trying to do more with less, or at least the same with less. So I think we recruiters also need to be smart on our approach and show value, not only on the talent acquisition side on bringing talent, but sometimes other type of subjects. Yeah, a lot of recruiters going to CS or to sales for a while when there wasn't hiring needs, and I think that's very useful, because you learn new skills, you learn new perspectives about the business, and sometimes I think people are very in a box. I think the box needs to be moving.
The good recruiter is very handy on different professions, like, indeed, like sales or CS, HR sometimes as well. But you know, HR is, I think, also in quite a tricky situation right now. So yeah, overall adaptability and flexibility is very much needed.
Cool. Just to close this topic, do you see any like big changes regarding on how companies approach hiring, or do you think like this scenario of doing less with more will remain the same in the next few months?
Yeah, I think it's a big shift, or kind of unfortunately, you know, because there's so many cool things in what has been happening a few years ago, I think, but it's quite a shift from well, because the market is less candidate driven in some points, there is less investment in employer branding, recruitment marketing, and a bit more focus on like a core recruitment tasks or budget. So what I think is important important. And also I think it's really important for managers or like VP of people or TA managers, like to really do a proper planning with management team or with a C-level with your company on, well, basically headcount you're going to hire. And that's again where being a subject matter expert can really help them to define how many specialists they want to have, maybe spending less resource or less budget for it, but also making sure that, well, we do not hire 50 people in a few months and then have to, well, lay off another 15, in half a year. And in a way, I saw companies doing that so much, because when you receive funding, you go all in, and there is very little filtering on hiring managers, like how many hires they have to make. And you'd rather do less for the company to make it sustainable than a lot and then, happen in an unpleasant situation.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, because usually you receive funding, everyone starts hiring.
I think generally recruiters should be a bit more business focused, because how many of us are really, well, getting in depth into what is happening, not only with the technology we're hiring for or like a product, but also, well, how does this business work, what it depends on, and how we can grow. I mean, of course, there's always a limit where you can go with it. It's good for general understanding, but also good for stakeholder management when you really communicate with your hiring managers.
Really understanding why you need that position, and if there is no other way to get that position. It's a question that recruiters should start from.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it gives you much more insights. And now that I'm on the agency side, sometimes I can gain clients with that, because I present an outsourcing offer that is limited on time. They know the budget. Maybe it's a bit more expensive in the short term, but they don't need to lay off anyone in the long run. And I think
indeed,
making sure that reputation and that the team is protected, I think it's more critical than ever. And companies needs to be more smart hiring, because it's not always hiring the right solution, and can be internal solutions and external solutions. And I think now there is becoming more and more people that think about staffing. There is so many ways of staffing and do projects. It's not only hiring and growing on headcount, because in the end of the day, it's very expensive to hire people, emotionally, money-wise. So I think nobody earns anything if we are doing layoffs, right? Nobody likes to be laid off. So
neither people who are laid off, I've been as well, in this couple of years, neither people who are staying, because it really creates an unsafe environment. So it's better to think smartly about how we can hire sustainably than have this aftermath.
I hope everyone on the other side also thinks the same, because I think this is much better if we talk openly about this and we can find solutions. Because what I don't like, it's sometimes I see companies repeating the mistakes of the past. So there will be layoffs, then they hire again, then they are doing layoffs again. Come on, guys, you could learn from the lesson. It's okay to do a mistake, but don't do the same mistake twice, right?
And I really wish, TA professionals would not be laid off at the first at the first side, because again, that's also the same, I think, mistake. Because if you grew like a good subject matter expert for your organization, and then in 4 months, this person, you would need them again, but you hire another recruiter who doesn't know anything about your company. That's also a shame.
Yeah, agree. You're always running behind the mistakes that you did. Cool. Let's change a bit topics and talking about Amsterdam, one of my favorite cities in the world.
You've been living here as well, right? So
I'll be there in a couple of weeks. So
oh, cool.
Always going there when I can. Why did you decide to move to Amsterdam, first of all?
That's always a mix of, I think, professional and personal. For me, I was working in Kiev in a Dutch company. It was Dutch outsourcing company. We were hiring in Ukraine. It's one of the best places I worked, in my career, and I grew there. I worked there for 5 years almost. I really loved it, and also we worked with basically Dutch clients. Dutch big companies, and I was going for the business trips to Amsterdam, and also knowing a little bit more about the market. And what I really liked is a Dutch way of working. Or I mean, some people have, there are challenges as well, of course, but it's very straightforward, and it's like you hear what I mean. You hear what it is, like it's very honest and straightforward and very not political in general. So I really like how people connect and how there's like a no bullshit culture, basically. Very international. I really wanted to try to live abroad for some time, and it happened like I also moved for love. So it was a good mix of reasons. To come here, but I love it. I am here for 6 years, so enjoying my time. Easy to make a decision. I was having long distance relationships for like 3.5 years, and back then I thought, well, that's like I also want to go for a vacation somewhere else except of Amsterdam, so let's let's change something here. But I mean, Amsterdam, one of the big hubs of like international, IT, right, or software development, and I think it's really as Lisbon or Dublin, and it's really you can really get a different experience than I could get in Ukraine. In Ukraine, it used to be a very outsourcing driven market, so not much about really product companies. And then recruitment is also different when you hire for consultants and not like full-time employees.
Yeah, it becomes more interesting. You're also more near the product itself, and I think gives you more knowledge, right, about what is going on.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're a bit more focused on soft. Well, I mean, that's debatable because for consultants, soft skills are needed, but at least I appreciate it when people are not perceived in like a billable hours. That's some of the reasons I'm here.
Yeah. And more on well, you can say something professional as well, but what was the biggest challenge regarding moving to Amsterdam for people that never lived abroad? What will explain that was your biggest challenge when you moved?
Sure. It's interesting because I really wanted to move. I knew Amsterdam quite well, so it's not not a situation where I'm coming to a known city or a known culture, but I still had some challenges to adapt. I suddenly figured out I'm a bit different person. Well, like different from Dutch people, and I figure out a bit more about myself as Ukrainian when I actually moved to Amsterdam. On a funny things, of course, I would say weather is difficult to adjust because it's always raining in winter, and when you don't see the shadow because there is not sun for some weeks, then there is very very easier to get a little bit depressed. I didn't know sun is so important. On a more professional level, well, I mean, this is a perk to Amsterdam being diverse and intercultural. In a way, it's also a challenge because you really need to adjust to different ways of working with different cultures, with different managers you have or different stakeholders. And I think it took me some time basically to adapt. Like a Dutch manager is very different from. And I mean, I'm also generalizing because it's not only about the culture, but that was definitely different ways of working than I used when I was in Ukraine. I was really surprised that people generally really separating their personal life and professional life. So when people would be 5 p.m. and they would be 5 p.m. on a Friday in Ukraine, I would always stay for drinks and socializing. And people here normally like leave the office and do their things, and quite transactional. And some ways of delivering feedback, which sometimes can be very straightforward. So it took me some time to understand how it actually works in a way.
Yeah. I think it's tough in the beginning when we receive the first time feedback from a Dutch person. We're like, whoa, what is that? But then we get used to it, and I think it's much faster like to get that feedback in because people are more proactive giving feedback and they're also more direct. So after you get used to it, the first impact, I think it's easy to move on. But like you said, I think the weather, it's always a pain for everyone, especially when we come from summer weathers. I also got a little bit
Yeah.
depressed in my first winter there. It's not easy, and I think this is the type of things that people need to think a little bit about before moving abroad. Of course, knowing the city
Yeah.
for vacations and for a few weeks, it's nice, especially Amsterdam, because you have so much to do. But then when we live there and you need to go on the day to day, that's slightly
Yeah,
different.
and it is also quite an expensive city, to be fair. So it's also like you need to adjust a little bit how you live. It's a great place to feel good in with a different income. I think I was able to afford less, like so I had to adjust to it. Although it gives so many other perks, then for me it really works. There was something else I wanted to say here. I think what I would really recommend to people um, is to learn the language of the place while you're moving, because that's not. It also took me a lot of time. I'm now learning Dutch because it's challenging. Everybody speaks English, especially in international environment, especially in IT companies. But well, people tend to say that Dutch people are not very hospitable or not very open. It's very hard to become friends with them. But it really changes when you start to know some phrases or, interested about the culture, doing some things that Dutch people are doing, then you can really get more accepted. And that's, I think it's normal. So I would recommend that. Also, it really helps to understand a little bit the people and their mentality.
I heard the saying that when you learn a new language and you start speaking, your personality speaking that language also change.
That's
Uh,
for sure. Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you earn the respect of others when you speak their native language, even if you are just trying. In the Netherlands, it's not very easy because everyone switched to English so fast.
It
Uh,
is very challenging, but possible. And it also helps to build new neural connections, which is good for your brain and your life longevity. So,
yeah,
only good things about learning the language.
yeah, it just takes so much time, at least for me. um,
Just one thing, I think for every international environment, and for me, in my experience, well, in Amsterdam, because I was expat, because I also was hiring international people before, it was way much more focused on relocating from different countries, right, and moving people in. Now, with a shift to remote, it's more hiring from those countries. That became really my passion, to understand a little bit the cultural differences and how basically, communication works for different people, how it's easier to connect. Done a lot of things around this topic, but I also can recommend the book called Culture Map. If you haven't
mhm.
read this one, it's really simple but kind of mind opening about different aspects on how people usually mean from different cultures and how to connect better. And that helps. Well, it helped not only me to adopt, but also helped me in my interactions with the candidates and well, people from different cultures.
First to be open and then to be aware of those differences. So it's a very good point. Cool. Thanks a lot for everything that you shared so far. I think I already learned a couple of things regarding culture and how to interact with others, also about hiring. And now I have like just three quick questions for you. They are a bit more personal, so feel free to share whatever you would like to with the crowd outside. But first of all, what annoys you on other people?
That's a funny question. I had to laugh when I was reading it. Didn't think about like a very smart response here. As I am a psychologist, and usually what we say is, well, what annoys you is what you also have, the qualities that you also have, but you
Mhm.
well, resist it, or you don't want to accept it, or somehow you don't let yourself be this kind of person. So it really annoys me when people are very loud and take a lot of time and space. But now I'm in a podcast, so it's funny, and I'm taking space. But it used to annoy me a lot when people doesn't include others. It's also very visible in remote work and overall in meetings. If you have someone talking a lot, then well, they basically well, don't let someone who is a bit more quiet and introverted to share their opinion. So that sometimes annoys me. Saying the beautiful words, but not, yeah, a bit like I'm very pro no bullshit and being straightforward person. So what annoys me is like very high level political discussions if we talk about work, and there's nothing behind them.
They're a bit correlated, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It can be sometimes.
Yeah, people that do
Yeah,
one that are very political usually they like to speak a lot, and sometimes they don't
indeed.
listen to others, and we are not talking about anything in the end. So
Yeah,
really, that's why Dutch people are very helpful in that way for us to be more direct and straight to the point. And
what about you? Did you respond this question yourself?
yeah, a
Or
lot. I have been
yeah?
thinking a lot about this question. I have been doing this question sometimes on interviews for quite a while.
Mhm.
I like the reaction of people about it, and it's a bit different. What annoys me really it's on traffic, people that are a bit slow. So
Mm.
I'm like not the best driver, but I don't like to get traffic, and sometimes people are so slow on traffic that that piss me off really. Professionally, it's more when people are not proactive enough. So I
Yeah,
really believe that not that we always need to do the extra mile or that we need to always do something new, but sometimes we have something there, and people, in my point of view, to grow and to become better, should go proactively to things. And I, I will, doesn't annoy me, but I don't like sometimes enjoy with people that think a lot before moving to something. So
yeah.
that's a little bit my take on it. But this changed. So if you asked me 5 years ago, it will be a different answer.
I get it. Yeah, I mean that's because you probably also evolve somehow. So yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, I'm not gonna go to the psychotherapy session right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move to the last two questions.
Yeah.
This one's, I think, it's also quite interesting. So, what is like the person that are alive that you'd love to have a lunch with?
I would have a lunch with my dad. He lives back to Ukraine, and well, it's quite challenging to meet him every now and then. So if I would have to choose, I would do that.
I could imagine, especially nowadays, must be tough.
Yeah, it's quite a ride to go back to Ukraine, and he cannot leave right now. So I think, well, that besides anything else, these times learn me to really value the time with your close family and your loved ones. So I would, exchange this for someone famous.
And I hope you can have a big, big lunch soon.
Sure. Yeah, I will. I will.
Cool. Just to finish our questions, if you could give an advice to your younger self, what that advice would be?
I think I could write a book, you know. I would say don't take yourself very serious, and in a good way, because for me, like, this means also, like, don't take your failures very seriously, don't think so much about how you look into the eyes of others. For me, it's also about being authentic and also being able to, well, let go some things when some things are not going as planned. And it also gives you, like, as a person, gives you a bit more flexibility to, I think, see the world and yourself from a side, and have a bit more fun, like, takes away a bit of drama which you have when you are 18 or 20, and an whole world is awaiting for you.
Yeah, sometimes we put too much pressure in
Yeah,
ourselves and we don't enjoy the moments. So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
a good advice to everyone. So yeah, we are coming to ends. Was super nice to speak with you, Yulia. For the people on that side, please follow Yulia on LinkedIn. I think she has a lot of interesting things to share. This was our third Hiire talk, so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free also to follow us on social media. So now we are on Instagram and also on LinkedIn very heavily. This live will be open for you guys to review any parts that you'd like to. I hope you like this episode and see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Gonzalo. It was lovely to have not an interview with you this time.
Good to be here.
Yeah.